I am Dustin. I am Community Program Coordinator for Canadian Mental Health Association of New Brunswick. I am actually based in Woodstock and kind of look after the Upper River Valley region. If you look at the map of the health zones, I cover the biggest chunk, probably Zone 3, but I cover everything outside of Fredericton. We have somebody stationed right in Fredericton as well. There are 14 of us around the province, and this is one of kind of the things we do. This is Wellness Wednesday. So every month we have different presenters, different topics to talk about on the last Wednesday evening of the month. This month we have Cecilia with us, and I'm gonna let her introduce herself.
Thank you all so much. I really appreciate you coming, and thank you from CMHA NB for asking me if I would come in and I would teach healthy living. I really do appreciate it. I'm really excited, and I'm even more excited about teaching the one in May as well. I'm going to start out with just explaining kind of like who I am, so you have a better understanding of me. So overall, this is me in a nutshell. So my name is Cecilia Watkins. I actually have 12 years roughly in the field. Most of my career has been wrapped up within mental health and in child protection. I am a registered human service counselor with the Association of the HSC of New Brunswick. I am also on the committee for Albert Westmoreland Suicide Prevention Committee, and proudly. I am a mom of 3 wonderful children, 21, 14, and 8. And yes, they all keep me on my toes. And then I have a somewhat grown husband as well in there. I am also the operations manager for a not-for-profit here in Riverview, New Brunswick called Ergon Life Center. We work with adults living with a mental illness and or an addiction, providing them opportunities for moving forward within their lives. And finally, something fun about me, one of my favorite pastimes of all is graphic design and painting. So that's just a little bit about me. So we're going to jump right into let's getting started about healthy living. So over the next hour, we are going to be talking about the key factors in healthy living. We're going to be breaking them down into more manageable pieces with strategies that you can incorporate into your everyday life. So on the screen, you'll see the 6 keys to healthy living. And within those 6 keys, if you think about it with social connection and staying active, managing stress, brain health, quality sleeping, and maintaining purpose, they actually are all focused on 3 very specific areas. So they're actually broken down into mind, body, and soul. So to be clear, when we're actually talking about the soul, we're actually speaking about what moves you, what makes you feel good. That could be a connection to a religious belief. It could be volunteering, self-discovery, self-care. They're just kind of examples. All right. So we're actually going to start with mind health. So let's jump into that. So with mind health, mind translates specifically into mind health. And to be able to talk about mind health, we need to understand the difference between mental health and mental illness. So mental health and mental illness are increasingly used to mean the exact same thing nowadays. The important thing to note is that they're not. They're in 2 entirely different things. Everybody in the entire world has mental health, just like our own physical health. Your mental health influences how you think and how you feel, how you behave in your daily life. It also affects our abilities to cope with stress and overcome challenges, build relationships, and recover from life's kind of setbacks and hardships. So that's what you can see here under mental health. It's about our mental well-being, and it really does focus on our emotions, our thoughts, problem solving, so on and so forth. A strong mental health isn't the absence of a mental illness, though. So being mentally or emotionally healthy is much more than having a diagnosis like depression and anxiety. Rather, healthy mental health refers to a positive characteristics in play, right? So with mental illness, we're looking at the difference between that this is an actual diagnosed illness where we're looking for generalized anxiety disorder, depression, bipolar, schizophrenia, obsessive compulsive disorder, also known as OCD. The thing about it is that mental illnesses, they can affect our mental health. They affect our emotions, how we think, how we feel, how we solve problems, and even our social connections. So just as someone who feels unwell may have a serious illness, people may have poor mental health without actually having a mental illness. We all have days that we feel a bit down or stressed out or overwhelmed, but sometimes that's just part of life. An important part of a good mental health is the ability to really look at our problems and our concerns realistically. So good mental health isn't about feeling happy and confident 100% of the time and ignoring any problems that we may have. It's about living and coping while having these problems as well. So there's a big difference between our mental health and our mental illness. It is possible a lot of the times to have positive or poor mental health and no mental illness. It's entirely possible to have good mental health and have a diagnosis of a mental illness. It's because mental illnesses, they have good days and bad days, just like anybody else would. What makes a positive mental health? So as you can see on the screen, we're really breaking it down that these are kind of examples. So a sense of contentment. Are you mostly content about who you are and what you have? Or are you always looking for something better than what you currently have? Do you have are you actually living the life that you have, enjoying the moments of laughter and fun? Or are you typically isolated and only really dreaming about your desires instead of trying to go out and get them? Do you have the ability to handle stress or move forward? Or do you feel like you're kind of running away from the stress to avoid it because it's just so difficult to deal with? You know that for a sense of purpose and meaning, we know that there are lots of individuals out there that go, I know my meaning for life. I know what I'm supposed to be doing. And then we also have the individuals there that are going, they're just waking up every day with absolutely no direction. And they feel that they're missing something. So with the flexibility for learning new skills and adapting to change, are you willing to learn something new every day and change it up? Or are you okay with not knowing and just doing what you do every day? Do you find yourself burnt out and wishing for more time for yourself or with your friends and family? So that's the balance between work, play, rest, and activity. Are you able to set and hold healthy boundaries with new relationships? Or do you accept how anyone just treats you because maybe you feel like you're lonely? So that's the ability to build and maintain healthy relationships. And then there's the self-confidence and positive self-esteem, which I am sure we have all heard of many, many times over. But are you confident in who you mostly are? Not who you are as a whole, like 1000%. I am completely confident in who I am. But are you confident in who you are mostly? Do you have strong self-esteem to back up that confidence? Or do you find that you have no real love and understanding for yourself? So before you all start thinking like, guess I'll never have a healthy mental health, you need to understand that having these traits that are on the screen right here are not something that you are going to have every single day at the same level throughout the entire day. Positive mental health traits are not an on and off switch, but instead they're a pendulum. See, this is what it looks like. So the different degrees of health, think of a range from good to poor health. Think of somebody in particular that may have fibromyalgia. Some days are better than others. Some days are terrible pain, while others are more manageable. And depending on the situation, some parts of the day are better than others. Mental health is the same. We're not experts with everything that we do with our own mental health. Every single day we live and we wake up and we try to figure it out, just like everything else we do. We might have a really strong ability to keep positive, but have a really difficult time overcoming problems. And then there are going to be days that you really struggle with a positive mindset and you nail that problem that you had. The key to it is that the sooner that you accept that every day will be different, we are not able to stay the same level at each moment of each day. The easier it's going to be for you to manage your mental health and have a healthier mental health overall. There is a huge connection between the relationship between mental health and resiliency. So having a solid mental health doesn't mean that you never go through bad times or experience emotional problems. We all go through these disappointments and loss and change. And while these are normal parts of life, they can still cause sadness, anxiety, and depression. But just as physically healthy people are better at bouncing back from illnesses or an injury, people with a strong mental health are better able to bounce back from adversity and trauma and even stress. This is the ability that's called resiliency. People who are emotionally and mentally resilient have the tools to cope with difficult situations and maintain a more positive outlook. To gain more resiliency, to build a healthier mental health, we're going to look at what's called the 7 C's of resiliency. Okay. So the first one being competence. So knowing that you can handle difficult situations. The key to this is that you have to remember that you have lived, survived, and handled everything negative that has ever come in your way. Sometimes we may not be able to handle them or handle the situation in the best manner, but accepting that you've made that choice and learning from the positive and negative decisions that you've made to handle that situation, that's really important. If handling a situation was easy, then it wouldn't be called a difficult situation. So next up is confidence. Believe in your abilities. The most successful way for you to start building confidence is to start believing in yourself. Accept that you don't have everything together. Or that you have an answer for everything. I am horrible for that. My friends will look at me, ask me a question, and I feel terrible that I can't answer at the top of my head. But I need to accept that that's just something that I can't do. It's important to remind myself and for you to remind you of the times that you did have confidence in yourself and how that went for you. Every time that I can think of that I went into a situation where I was confident, it went well for me. And if it didn't go well for me, I probably didn't care because I went into it with confidence. Or I stuck it in the back of my head and put it on a shelf somewhere and we're just going to leave it there. One or the other. So the next one is connection. So maintaining those ties to loved ones. When I'm talking about loved ones, I'm not talking about necessarily the family that you were born with. Loved ones can be absolutely anyone, right? Even a pet. So keeping connections with those individuals in your life that have put as much energy into you as you have put into them. That is extremely important. Putting as much energy, have to be putting as much energy into you as you are putting into them. If you are connected with someone who makes you feel anything other than supported or cared about, then that energy is not what you want on your journey. you need to start looking somewhere else. So next up is character, developing a strong set of values. Do you know how many people I have worked with in my entire career that when I say, okay, what are your values that you have for yourself? And they have absolutely no idea. I always recommend taking time and sitting down and figuring out what your values are, because that's going to be your leader. That is going to be what you go towards when you just don't know what else to do. So take the time to figure them out. Figure out what your guidelines are for you. Figure out what it is that you're going to follow and that what brings you joy. These guidelines are for you and for you only. So they could be things like reliability or making a difference or kindness or determination. But always remember, values are the things that you strive to be in your life. A true value is something that no one can ever take away from you, ever. So the next step is contribution, using your strengths to help others, basically. We all have strengths, whether we know it or not, and whether we take time to figure out what they are. We all have strengths. The thing is that using those strengths to help others is amazing for resiliency. Maybe it's listening to others. That's your strength. Taking time to listen to someone who might feel like they have no one else to talk to. Maybe you're a really great cook and offer to cook a meal for one of the homeless shelters. Giving back is not giving up. It's actually building up. You're building yourself up while you're building someone else up. So the next step is coping. Being able to handle stress is in a healthy way. This is extremely important. Now I'm going to say that again, in a healthy way. We all have built coping tools over the years, healthy and unhealthy. We have taken the coping tools of others. Maybe as a child, you've picked up your mother's coping tool of sleeping when you're stressed. Take the time and write out the list of everything that you do for a coping tool. You maybe walk, maybe you eat an entire pack of Oreos. Writing, maybe you do marijuana. Sleeping, anger, avoidance, deep breathing, self-harm. List every single one of them. No one is going to see this list but you. You do not need to be ashamed of this list because it's only your eyes and you already know what you do. From there, you're going to take that list and you're going to decide, is this coping tool helpful or hindering? If it is hindering you, what are you going to do to replace it? The thing is that you need to be able to understand it's one step at a time. Remember, just because you decide one day to go back to a hindering coping tool doesn't mean you failed. It means that you're going to try again tomorrow. You're going to try again the next day. One fail does not mean that it cancels out all the good that you've done. So next is control. Knowing that you have the ability to make choices, accept that every choice is yours and yours alone to make. It's not your friends or your mom's or your spouse's fault that you made the choice that you did. You have control over the choices that you decide to make. You also have control over accepting the outcome and the learning from it. Remember, making the same choice over and over again and expecting a different result is absolutely no different than running into a wall over and over again, expecting the door to come to you. You need to understand that you have the control. If you are following these 7 C's, you are building resiliency. One of the things that I do suggest is that you give yourself a break. All right. We're not going to wake up tomorrow and go, okay, I have to work on all 7 of these things to make myself resilient. That's not how it's going to work. You're going to pick one of these things, and that's what you're going to work on. You're going to work on it until it becomes easier for you to do that, until you don't feel like this is not going to work, until one day you're just going to wake up and you're going to go, oh, Okay, I got that one. Then you're going to move on to another one. And you don't have to do it in order 1 through 7. Pick one that makes it that you think is going to be maybe the easiest one for you to implement. Do not start with the hardest one. You're not going to be running a marathon before you can even crawl. Start with something a little bit easier. So we're going to move on to body. So the thing about it is that I could probably actually talk about mental health and mental illness for hours upon hours, but nobody wants that. So we're going to move on to body. All right. So we're going to talk about physical health. So we're going to talk about that dreaded word exercise, or at least it's kind of dreaded for me sometimes. So we're going to talk about that dreaded word about exercise. So seriously, what's the point of it? There is a huge, huge connection between the mind and the body. They are linked. We all know that if we have a headache, it drains our body as well, right? So our mind and our body are completely linked. When you improve your physical health, you're automatically experiencing a greater mental and emotional well-being. Physical activity also releases endorphins, powerful chemicals that lift your mood and provide added energy. With physical activity or exercise, you're looking at releasing good or healthy endorphins. You're looking at building confidence, better and healthy coping tools, releasing stress. It even improves your memory and a better quality of sleep. So exercise has a major impact on our health, on our emotional and our mental health. It's just a matter of fact. And the other great thing about it is that it also helps with health problems. So we're looking at high blood pressure, we're looking at diabetes, and we're even looking at our arthritis. It helps with those things. But being realistic, I hate exercising. I get that. You are not alone with hating exercise. Completely understand that. Lifting weights and going to the gym and jogging on a treadmill, it's not my idea of a good time. It might be yours. If it is, I completely say go for it. It's just not my thing. But there's a big difference that people don't realize between physical activity and exercise, a huge difference. So with physical activity, we're looking at working our muscles and it requires energy, but we can also do these things at work, at home, when we're out having some fun with our family, whatever it may be. But with exercise, that's more of a planned, structured, repetitive body movement. So with physical activity, that's like dancing at home on the couch, obviously, because we got a picture there for it. With exercise, that's going to the gym, right? I work with somebody, he goes to the gym every single day after work. I want to go home and go to bed, but I still I dance at home with my kids while he's on a treadmill. So one of the things is that it's about wording. It's about the way that we the things that we say and how we connect them, and if we are going to actually do them. So what I'm talking about is that when we hear the word exercise, I legitimately can hear people groan from like 20 miles away at the idea of saying the word exercise. But it's got a negative undertone to that word. So the thing is that you can create a word that doesn't make you cringe when you say it. Body movements, dancing, moving, fresh air, me time, anything that doesn't make you feel like it's a chore. Mindset is going to be very important for you to make sure that you keep going and that you do it. Taking a walk at lunchtime. Maybe you're going to go to the park, walk laps in an air conditioning mall while you're window shopping. Throw a frisbee to your dog. Dance to your favorite music. Play video games with your kids that are activity based. Maybe you're cycling or walking to an appointment rather than driving. These are all physical activities, and not one of them is inside of a gym. You don't have to exercise until you're soaking in sweat or your muscles are aching. Even a small amount of physical activity can make a big difference to your mental, emotional, and physical health. The best part of it is you don't even have to schedule it into your day because you're already doing these things. But I don't have time, Cecilia. I get it. I get it. Exercise is not something that everyone has time for. They recommend 30 minutes of heart pumping exercise 3 to 5 times a day. I'm sorry, I have 3 children, a career, and painting that I need to get done. I just don't have the time. However, I'm able to find small amounts of time throughout my day where I'm adding 10 to 15 minutes of activity or whatever it may be throughout the day. And these things are going to benefit me. They're going to benefit me more than doing nothing at all. There are things that can be done as long as you're thinking outside the box, right? So we're looking at things like this. Simple as taking the stairs instead of the elevator, parking in the back of the parking lot and walking to the store. Consider biking and walking to the destination instead of driving. Vacuuming and sweeping and mopping. As my husband said last night, you probably have to do it aggressively, but it'll get done. Taking a long way around the store to get to your destination. Chair yoga. I recommend chair yoga. If you have mobility issues, chair yoga is going to be your friend. Arm exercise with cans of soup. Walk up and down your hallway. Rearrange your furniture in your room. Even dancing to music while you're doing a task like the dishes or laundry. And then, of course, if you really are adventurous, you can give your child a permanent marker and play Can't Catch Me. This also works for your dog as well if you're trying to figure out what they've got in their mouths. Trust me, you'll be out of breath by the time you're done that. All of these things can take 10 or 15 minutes and you can do them where you are. You don't have to schedule these things in. Right? You're on the phone, you're walking around, you're talking on the phone to your friend, you grab the vacuum, you're vacuuming or sweeping at the same time, right? You've got a can of soup in your hand and you're doing arm curl ups while you're on the phone. All of these things can be done as your day goes on. You don't have to spend special time scheduling them out. So next up is, I wrote this because this is very much me. I always have really great intentions about exercising, about one bag of chips and a night of Netflix. And all my intentions are focused on, yes, I am still watching. Stop judging me, Netflix. So what can I do about it? Figuring out what type of physical activity that you are willing to do and that you like doing. That is so important. You are not going to sit around or you're not going to go do something that you don't enjoy doing, right? So if, for instance, if you really are a garden lover, maybe you're going out and you are gardening in the evening, start your day with a walk with your dog, go for a bike ride, play basketball with your children after school, or maybe it's even so much so as a foot pedal bike while you're sitting and you're watching your favorite TV show. All of these things it has to be based around what you enjoy. If you enjoy it, more likely you're going to do it. Have a support person. Having a support person that helps motivate you, keeps you on track, and someone who you can count on and they can count on you. But the key to that is making sure that their wants and needs match yours. You don't want someone canceling and rescheduling that might not have the same motivations as you do, because then you're right back to where you were, struggling for commitment. So make sure if you're going to have a support person that they have the same intentions as you do. Setting reasonable goals. Your mission does not have to be walking an hour 5 days a week. Think realistically. What is it that you want? What are you able to do? And begin gradually. Tailor your plan to your own needs and your own ability. If you are not able to walk around the block because of your because of a physical ailment, well, setting that as a goal right from day one, you're setting yourself up for failure. Make sure they're reasonable goals. Gradually working your way up so that maybe you're walking up and down your hallway to walking to the end of your driveway and back, and then maybe getting to the point you're able to walk up and walk around the block. Make those goals realistic. Don't think of exercise or physical activity as a chore. If exercise is just another should in your life, then you don't think that you're not going to live up to it. You'll associate it with failure. So if you're looking at adding more exercise or physical activity into your day-to-day, think of it more as a therapy session or medication, something that you would do to help, a tool that you would use to help you get better. Analyze your barriers. Figure out what's stopping you, what's holding you back. If you feel self-conscious, instead, for instance, you may want to exercise at home. If you stick to goals better with a partner, find your friend. If you don't have the money to spend on exercise gear or memberships, do something that's free, like walking in the park. If you think about what's stopping you from being physically active or exercising, you can probably find an alternative solution, as long as your heart is in the right spot. Be prepared for setbacks and obstacles. Give yourself credit for every step in the right direction, no matter how small it is. If you skip one day, that doesn't mean that you have failed and that you need to quit. Just try again the next day. Stick with it. You were not born walking. It takes time and practice. Physical activity is exactly the same way. All right. So now we're going to talk about healthy eating. So we all know healthy eating is one of the hardest things to do. Healthy eating isn't about eating all the right things every time you open your mouth to put something in it. It's not about that at all. It's actually about adding those healthier foods into your daily and trying your best to remove the foods that you should be maybe avoiding. It's extremely important that if you're going to start eating healthy, that you do not drop all of the foods you enjoy that might not be healthy for you all at the same time. Do not drop them all at once. You are going to be setting yourself up for failure. Small changes, small steps leads to big successes. Sorry. There we go. So here are some foods that is recommended to avoid. Caffeine is one. I boycott that one because I drink a lot of caffeine, but we'll go forward. I suppose we'll keep that on there. Alcohol, trans fats. These are all things that are going to cause low energy. These are all things that are going to disrupt your mood, disrupt your sleep, suck the energy completely out of you. So obviously there are those sugary snacks on there. There is like white rice and fried foods, but there are foods that are more healthier for us to try. So we're talking about like the omega-3. So salmon and herring, say it right, sardines and tuna. We're talking about nuts, which is walnuts and like almonds, cashews, peanuts. Avocados, could never get my head wrapped around an avocado, but I praise people who I eat it every day. It does look good, but just can't taste it properly, I guess. So flaxseed and beans, leafy greens such as spinach and kale, Brussels sprouts, and then some fresh fruits such as blueberries. These are all things that will boost your mood. But here's the kicker, is that we can't all afford those things on our day-to-day. So there are healthy things that you can eat that are on a budget that are going to boost your mood, just like the one in the middle. So brown rice, oatmeal, obviously not the pre-packaged oatmeal, that you're not going to get as much from that as you would from maybe the minute or the 3-minute rice or the steel oats as an example. Air popped popcorn, bananas, frozen fruits and vegetables. They are cheaper than the fresh ones. Canned fish like tuna as an example. I always recommend grocery sharing. If you do not have the budget to go out and buy fresh fruits and vegetables, maybe you and a friend can put your money together and say like they both have $20, have $40 together and buy the fruits and vegetables that you want off the $40. And then you split the fruits and vegetables at the end. I recommend that. It works a lot, especially if you're on a budget. All right. So we're going to talk about healthy sleeping. My husband and I are the notorious for going to bed at like midnight. But even though I know this information, so I'm going to tell you anyways. So if you do lead a busy life, cutting back on sleep actually might seem like it's more of a smarter move. But when it comes to your mental health, your physical health, getting enough sleep is a necessity, not a luxury. So skipping even a few hours here or there can actually take a huge toll on your mood and on your energy, even your mental sharpness and your ability to handle stress. Over a long time, chronic sleep loss can wreak havoc on your health and your outlook. The benefits of the proper sleep, obviously, they help with balanced hormones, concentration and productivity, strengthen your heart. You're able to solve problems and really work on your memory or enhance your memory, a healthy immune system, and then your ability to regulate your emotions. The negatives behind not having a proper sleep is they're pretty severe. And this is a long time. Like if you're long stretches of poor sleep, we're looking at risk of heart disease. I spelled heart wrong. Risk of heart disease, risk of high blood pressure, obesity, type 2 diabetes, depression, anxiety, and even increased inflammation in your body. Adults are actually should be aiming for more of a 7 to 9 hours of quality sleep every night. However, it's often unrealistic to expect to sleep and the moment that you lay down and close your eyes. Most individuals nowadays, they are laying down at the end of the day and they are thinking about arguments that they've had. They're thinking about things they need to do tomorrow, things they forgot to do today, worries that they have. They're thinking about the time that they tripped on stage dressed as a sandwich when they were 7 years old. That may just be me. Hopefully not. But this is the things that go through our mind. We need that time to unwind at the end of the day so that we can set our mind to the point where we can start realizing that we are tired and we need to go to bed. So obviously taking breaks from screens, TVs, phones, tablets, computers about 2 hours before bedtime. Those are the things that are going to really help you have a more balanced sleep. I'm sure that most of you are probably sitting there thinking the same thing as I did. It's not always about the amount as much as it is the quality of sleep that I'm getting. That one was always about, for me, it was about the quality. So we're going to talk about sleep cycles. So I'm wondering if there is, have you ever had that time where you've gone and you've laid down for a nap, and when you woke up, you felt the need to ask like what year it was? Or maybe you woke up in the morning to your alarm and you had to remind yourself not to throw it because you're going to break your phone. Well, there's actually reasons for this, and it has a lot to do with our sleep cycles and when we're waking up within them. So with our sleep cycles, we actually have 5 in total. And a lot of individuals have heard of like a REM cycle, so the rapid eye movement, but the first 4 are actually the non-rapid eye movement. This is where we're looking at our heart rate is decreasing, our muscles are relaxing. We're not really dreaming as much as we're having like dream flashes, and maybe the images are a bit broken. And even our tissue is repairing itself at that point in time. So we're doing that through stages 1 through 4. And then stage 5, which is the final stage, is our rapid eye movement. This is where our breathing is shallow, our eyes are darting back and forth. We have very vivid dreams. And this stage is when we get our energy. It is why it is so important that we are sleeping right straight through when we're in stage 5 and we're not woke up. And so much so that our brain actually deploys a safety measurements to protect us so that we actually don't wake up. This is, believe it or not, I don't know how many of you have ever experienced this or not, when you're dreaming and your alarm or your phone is going off and you can hear it in your dream. That is that actual safety mechanism that our brain is putting in there so that we are not startled awake while we're in stage 5, because it is that important. So what does they actually look like, these stages? So we start with stage 1, and this is the one where the non rapid eye movement. This is where our brain begins to slow down. We're drifting in and out of sleep. This is when we kind of experience that falling dream, or that really makes us jump and wake up. Stage 2, this is where our eyes are movement stops and we really begin to relax, because the period right after, right before this one, before we enter, or sorry, this is the period right before we enter the deep sleep. So stage 3, this is where our brain waves actually slow down even more, and we are preparing for a more deeper sleep. Stage 4 this is actually one of our deepest sleeps stages. It's important to reach this stage to have good night's sleep every single cycle. This is where, if we're not, this is where it's really important not to be woken up during this stage. If you do wake up during this stage, you actually might wake up grumpy. So if you've ever woke up and you feel like you could like rip the face off the first person that you see and you have absolutely no idea why, likelihood that you've probably woken up in stage 4. Stage 5, this is where we're dreaming the most. This is where our dreams happen. So it's very important that we are not woken up during this stage. If you are woken up, you're going to feel disoriented, and you're going to this is where you're going to try to figure out what year it is. After these stages are complete, you have actually gone through a 90-minute sleep cycle. And we are supposed to go through this cycle 5 to 6 times every single night. So when's the best time to wake up? The best time to wake up is actually in stage 1. All right. So think about it. We're supposed to go through all 5 of these stages 5 to 6 times a night. So eventually we're going to go through the first time we go through, we're going to go through stage 5, and then we're going to start over in stage 1. This entire stage is 90 minutes. So if you're going to lay down for a nap, I highly recommend that you set an alarm or a timer or whatever you need for about 93 minutes. We're going to take a couple of minutes in case you're a little bit behind in your cycles. When you wake up at the beginning of stage 1, this is the time that you're going to wake up and you're going to feel the most refreshed, even if it is only for a nap. All right. So, but how do I know what times I should be waking up? Excuse me. So there are actual websites out there. If you just Google sleep calendar calculator, they will help you. So this one in particular, I said that I wanted to wake up at 7 a.m. and the sleep calculator determined that I really should, my best time to go, a suggested time to go to bed is at 10 a.m. or 10 p.m. Sorry, gives me 9 hours of sleep, and it tells me how many cycles I'll go through. And then it goes down through like all the way to 2 a.m. I still get 4.5 hours of sleep and 3 sleep cycles through that. The key to it is that, yes, I might go to bed at 10, or I could go to bed at 2:30. I won't get as much sleep, but I will still be able to wake up and have more energy than I would if I woke up in cycle 4, as an example. Even if you want to try this for like a week, I highly recommend giving it a try. So moving right along, because I'm running out of time here, I'm sorry. We're talking about soul. So with soul, we're talking about meaning. The meaning provides the purpose of our lives. It's the value and the standards by which to judge our actions. It gives us a sense of control over the events in our life. Lastly, it provides us with self-worth. So what is self-worth? Self-worth is the internal sense of being good enough, worthy of love, and belonging from ourselves and others without compromise. So there is a ton of different types of selves out there: self-compassion, self-care, self-trust, self-respect. Self-worth is so important right along with the rest of them. It's interconnected with all of those: self-compassion, self-care, self-trust, self-respect. It's all connected. But the thing is that a lot of people get self-esteem and self-worth confused. So self-esteem is about how we think and feel and believe about ourselves. So I'm terrible at my job. I'm ugly. I can't make friends. But self-worth is the core of our very self that is tied into how we value our worthiness and value ourselves as a human being. I don't deserve happiness. I'm a bad friend. I'm not a good person. There are so many individuals that get those two mixed up. With self-esteem, we're talking about the things like we have a strong self-esteem because of the things that we have done for ourselves or created for ourselves. With self-worth, it is about how we feel about ourselves, how we feel if we are worthy enough. When you're thinking about self-worth, I invite you to ask these questions to yourself. What words would you use to describe yourself? What value did you place on yourself or your aspect of yourself? If you are describing these things as negative or positive or even balanced, then it will help you determine your self-worth. What messages were around your worth and where did they come from? We're going to build some self-worth through self-compassion. So there are many ways that you can increase your self-worth. And one of them is starting with self-compassion. So self-compassion is the ability to be kind to yourself and actually say or do kind things towards ourselves the same way that we would a good friend, right? We can remember and remind ourselves that everyone makes mistakes and we're not perfect. We are humans. We have to start by noticing that we are struggling and allowing ourselves to sit with whatever emotion that may arise. So here's a great way that you can do this. So I actually really recommend maybe you want to take a screenshot of this, take a picture, save it for later. Whatever you would like to do is completely up to you. But this is an activity that you can do at any point in time to really start building up your self-worth. Excuse me. So in this particular task, you're looking at talking to a friend, and that friend is coming to you and they are really low. They are talking negative about themselves. What would you say to them? What wonderful traits would you tell them? What tone would you use? What words would you say to change their mind, to make them realize that they are worthy? Now, think about the last time you felt bad about yourself and you were so struggling. Write down the things that you said to yourself. Write down the tone that you spoke to yourself. What names did you call yourself? So from there, I want you to look at the two pieces of paper and notice the difference. Ask yourself why. Why are you okay talking to yourself this way, but you are not willing to talk the same way to a loved one, to a friend? Because it's not right. You know that it's not right. So how are you going to treat yourself better next time? How bad could it be to treat yourself as if you were your own best friend? This is how you're going to start building some self-worth. Another one here for you, through active listening, you're going to start listening to yourself. We talk to ourselves all day long. All day long, we talk to ourselves. Be aware of what you're actually saying to yourself. The next time you catch yourself thinking or speaking to yourself in a negative or unkind manner, I want you to do the exact same thing as if an actual person was saying those things to you. Another person was saying those things to you. I want you to stop. I want you to apologize, and I want you to correct it. Yes, I want you to apologize to yourself. It's a sign of self-compassion. Correct the wording. Understand that you are a worthy person. You never, ever would speak to a child the way that you speak to yourself. Why is it okay? Why is it okay for you to speak this way to yourself? Number 3 is we're self-worth through reframing. Really, this is about when we are trying to self-motivate by using self-criticism. This is when we're looking at going, oh, I'm so lazy because I didn't get up and clean. I'm so impulsive. I spend money all the time, or I'm such a pushover. Think about why you're being so hard on yourself. Take some time to get in touch with yourself and figure out why, how you're making yourself feel. I guarantee you that you cannot sit there and go by telling me that your inner dialogue, calling yourself lazy, is making you feel good and it is motivating you. If it did, then you wouldn't need to be saying it. Understand that reframing is about, I have a thought in my head. It is a negative thought. Okay, I said it. What am I going to do to replace it? You're not going to do these things overnight, but understand that our self-criticism is one of the hardest things to ever overcome, but it is possible one step at a time. Remember that you are going to slip up and that's okay, but notice how you made yourself feel. Give yourself compassion. Remember, reframe the inner dialogue. We are our worst bullies. So a healthy body, coming this all the way back around. So in closing, be kind to yourself. You are only one person and you can't do it all in one day. A healthy body keeps you well and active. A healthy mind keeps you focused and engaged. A healthy soul keeps you fulfilled and content. Focusing on these areas will help you with your personal healthy living. Thank you so much for coming, and I hope that you're able to take something away this evening that you can try tomorrow, but I highly recommend trying one thing at a time. Don't try to do them all at once. So I am finished. I'm going to open it up for questions. I know that it is 8 o'clock on the dot. I'm sorry, I talk a lot. I apologize.
Cecilia, there was one that came up throughout, so I wonder if you can, the self-worth slide, you
Yes.
have self-worth and self-esteem slide. You had examples of negative ways of looking at yourself and your work. Wondering if you could give some positive examples along with that for the self-worth and self-esteem.
Are we talking about the words that we describe ourselves, or are we going, oh, here we go. So self-worth and self-esteem. So self-esteem, we're talking about, I'm really great at my job. I'm really great at organizing. I might not be fantastic at technology, but I'm really great at organizing. Instead of saying I'm ugly, say I have really beautiful eyes, or I really like my smile. Finding the smallest thing. I can't make friends. I haven't found the right friends yet. They're there. I will find them. Self-worth. I don't deserve happiness. I always deserve happiness. I just can't find what's right for me right now. I'm a bad friend. I made a mistake, and that's okay. That does not make me a bad friend. I'm not a good person. Other than saying I am a good person for this reason and this reason and this reason and this reason. It's about finding even the smallest minute to change the mindset. I hope that answers your question.
And then another question we have is, how would you suggest getting in touch with our values?
Absolutely. So getting in touch with your values, the very first thing that is very important is figuring out what they are. And if you made these values or determine what your values were, let's say even a year ago, I really highly recommend going back and checking to see if they are even the same. With things like that happen in the world that are big, like COVID, as an example, they really change and they really can affect the values that we have. So I highly recommend first going back and figuring out if they are still the same, picking and making a list of going, okay, if family is a value for me, what am I going to do to implement more family into my day-to-day? So maybe you work really late at night, but your value is family. So instead of working overtime, you're going to pick 2 or 3 days a week that you are going to focus on going home and being with your family. You're going to make those plans.
Thank you so much. I appreciated it. There's
Absolutely.
there was a lot in there that I was like, man, I wish I had heard this like 24 hours earlier. I could have shared some of it. Would have made my job a little easier today, but that's okay. I can take it from here. But yeah, thank you so much for sharing and condensing and making this. You did really well.
Absolutely. I thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate it. I look forward to next month's on personal boundaries. I really want to condense that one.
I might come and sit in on that one because
I would love to have you.
I love that topic. So yes, there is another Wellness Wednesday next month at the last Wednesday of the month, as you just heard, on personal boundaries. And so watch for the link to be able to register for that and join us then as well. And you have a few people saying thank you in the chat, but I am going to say that that is the end of our session. So thanks for everybody for joining us tonight. Have a great evening and see you later.
Thank you. Have a nice night.